Psalm 73, in parentheses 74, of understanding for Asaph. God, why have you rejected us to the end? Why has your anger raged against the sheep of your pasture? Remember your congregation you acquired from the beginning, that you redeemed the rod of your inheritance, this Mount Zion, where you encamped. Lift up your hands against their arrogance to the end, against everything the enemy prostituted in your holy places. Those who hate you boasted in the midst of your feast. They set up their signs, yes, signs, and they did not know. As into an entrance hall, as in a thicket of trees, they cut down its doors with axes. With battle axes and hammers, they broke it down. They burned down your sanctuary. They defiled the tabernacle of your name to the ground. Their kindred said in their heart together, Come, let us abolish all the feasts of God from the earth. We do not see our signs. There is no longer any prophet, and he will no longer know us. How long, O God, will the enemy reproach? Will the adversary provoke your name to the end? Why do you turn away your hand, your right hand from the midst of your breast to the end? But God is our King before the ages. He works salvation in the midst of the earth. You strengthen the sea by your power. You crushed the heads of dragons upon the water. You shattered the heads of the dragon. You gave him as food for the Ethiopian peoples. You broke apart fountains and torrents. You dried up the rivers of Etham. The day is yours, and the night is yours. You created the light and the sun. You made all boundaries of the earth, summer and winter. You formed these things. Remember this. The enemy insulted the Lord, and a foolish people provoked your name. May you not deliver to wild beasts the soul who gives thanks to you. May you not forget the souls of your poor to the end. Look upon your covenant. For the dark places of the earth are filled with the houses of lawlessness. Let not the humbled and the disgraced be turned away. The poor and needy shall praise your name. Arise, O God, judge your cause. Remember the insults against you by foolish man all the day long. Do not forget the voice of your suppliants. The arrogance of those who hate you rises against you continually. Psalm 74, in parentheses 75. For the end, do not corrupt a psalm by an ode for Asaph. We shall give thanks to you, O God. We shall give thanks and call upon your name. I shall describe all your wonders. When I seize the opportunity, I shall judge these rightly. The earth is dissolved, and all its inhabitants I made firm its pillars. I said to those who transgress the law, do not transgress the law. And to those who sin, I said, do not exalt yourselves, do not boast in yourselves, do not accuse God of wrongdoing, for judgment comes neither from the sunrise nor the sunset, nor from mountains of the deserts, for God is judge. This one he brings down low, and that one he raises up. For the cup in the Lord's hand is full of unmixed wine, a drink poured out, and he tipped it from side to side, but its dregs were not emptied out. All sinners of the earth shall drink them, but I shall greatly rejoice forever. I shall sing to the God of Jacob. All the horns of sinners I shall crush, but the horns of the righteous man shall be exalted. Psalm 75 in parentheses 76, for the end, and hymns, a psalm for Asaph, an ode to the Assyrian. In Judah, God is known. His name is great in Israel. His place was made in peace, and his dwelling in Zion. Then he broke the power of the bows, weapon and sword and battle. You give light wondrously from the everlasting mountains. All the foolish in heart were troubled. All men of wealth slept their sleep and found nothing in their hands. At your rebuke, O God of Jacob, those who mounted horses fell asleep. You are fearsome, and who shall stand against you? From that time on is your wrath. You caused judgment to be heard from heaven. The earth was afraid and kept quiet when God arose for judgment to save all the gentle on the earth. For a man shall give thanks to you from his heart, and he shall celebrate a feast to you with his whole heart. Pray and return to the Lord your God. All around him shall bring gifts. To fear someone and to whom takes away the spirits of rulers. To the fearsome one among the kings of the earth. And then notes from the previous page. Psalm 73 is a prophecy for understanding. An understanding of what? That all human history is incarnational in nature. Therefore, human history may be called the history of the incarnation of the Word. For this history, from the beginning to the end, speaks of the Word of God incarnate in his lordship throughout history. And this incarnate God is our King before the ages and the creator of the world he created. He worked salvation in the midst of the earth, through the cross, and crushed the heads of dragons. At his baptism, he also arose from the dead. Arise, O God. Verse 12 is the exaltation of the Holy Cross and on the eve of Theophany. 74. Psalm 74 is a prophecy concerning the judgment seat of Christ, the end. See also 2 Corinthians 5:10 and 11. Therefore, all men are commanded not to corrupt. That is, do not transgress the law, nor exalt yourselves in sin. For God incarnate is judge. God is judge. And the Lord's cup of judgment is in his hand. And the horns of the corrupt men shall be crushed. But those of righteous man shall be exalted. And this man shall greatly rejoice forever in the world to come. See also the Nicene Creed. 75. Psalm 75 is contrasting two opposing kingdoms. The Assyrian is the devil, who leads his kingdom, the fallen angels. See also Colossians 2:15. And fallen people. The end is God incarnate, who leads his kingdom, the holy angels and holy people. The final outcome in this battle is obvious. Who shall stand against you? Let's see. Psalm 76 in parentheses 77 for the end concerning Edithan, a psalm for Asaph. With my voice I cried to the Lord, with my voice, and he gave heed to me. In the day of my affliction I sought out God, with my hands before him by night, and I was not deceived. My soul refused to be comforted. I remembered God and was glad. I complained, and my spirit became discouraged. I stayed awake through all the watches of the night. I was troubled and did not speak. I thought of the days of old, and I remembered the eternal years, and I meditated. By night I communed with my heart, and my spirit searched. Will the Lord cast me off unto the ages, and he will be favorable no more? Or will he cut off his mercy completely from generation to generation? Or will God forget to be merciful? Or will he in his wrath withhold his mercies? I said, now I am beginning to see. This change is by the right hand of the Most High. I remember the Lord's works, for I will remember your wonders of old, and I will meditate on all your works, and I will consider your ways, O God. Your way is in the place. Who is so great a God as our God? You are the God who does wonders. You are made known with your power among the peoples. You redeemed your people with your arm, the sons of Jacob and Joseph. The waters saw you, O God. The waters saw you and were afraid, and the depths were troubled. A multitude like the sound of waters. The clouds uttered their voice. For your arrows passed through them. The voice of your thunder was in the wheel. Your lightning gave light to the world. It was shaken, and the earth was made to tremble. Your way is in the sea, and your paths are in many waters, and your footsteps shall not be known. You led your people as sheep by the hand of Moses and Aaron. Psalm 77 in parentheses 78 concerning understanding for Asaph. Give heed, all my people, to my law. Incline your heart to the words of my mouth. I shall open my mouth in parables. I shall speak of hidden things from of old. What things we heard, these we also knew. And our fathers described them to us. It was not hidden from their children in a different generation who declare the praises of the Lord and his mighty deeds and his wondrous things he did. He raised up a testimony in Jacob and appointed a law in Israel, whatever he commanded our fathers, to make these things known to their children. That a different generation may know, children yet to be born. They will arise and declare these things to their children, so they may put their hope in God, and do not forget the works of God, and seek out his commandments, so may not become like their fathers, a generation rebellious and embittered, a generation that did not keep its heart right, and its spirit was not faithful with God. The sons of Ephraim, who bend and shoot their bows, turn back in the day of battle. They did not keep God's covenant, and they did not desire to walk in his law. And they forgot his good deeds and his wonders. He showed them in the sight of their fathers, the marvelous things he did in the land of Egypt and the field of Zoan. He parted the sea and led them through. The water stood like a dam, and he led them with a cloud by day, and all night by the light of a fire. He split the rock in the desert, and gave them water to drink as in a great deep. And he brought out water from the rock, and he brought it down like the waters of rivers. And they still continued to sin against him. They rebelled against the Most High in a place without water, and they tested God in their hearts by asking food for their souls. And they slandered God and said, "Why is God unable to prepare a table in the desert, since he struck the rock, and the waters flowed, and brooks flooded? Is he also unable to give us bread or to prepare a table for his people?" Therefore the Lord heard and was enraged. And fire was kindled in Jacob, and wrath arose against Israel, because they did not believe in God, nor put their hope in his salvation. And he commanded the clouds above, and opened the doors of heaven. And he rained manna for them to eat, and gave them bread of heaven. Man ate the bread of angels. He sent them food in abundance. He took away the south wind from heaven, and with his power he brought in the southwest wind. He rained flesh on them like dust, and winged birds like the sand of the sea. And they fell in the midst of their camp, all around their tents, and they ate and were well filled. And he brought them their own desire. They were not deprived of their desire, while their food was still in their mouth. The wrath of God rose up against them, and killed their wealthy ones, and shackled Israel's chosen ones. In all these things they still sinned, and yet did not believe in his wonders. And their days ended in folly, and their years with haste. When he killed them, they sought him out, and turned back and rose up early before God. They remembered God was their helper, and the Most High God their Redeemer. But they received him with their mouth, and lied to him with their tongue, for their heart was not right with him. Neither were they faithful to his covenant. But he is merciful, and will atone for their sins, and not destroy them. And he will multiply them and turn away his anger. And he will not kindle all his wrath, for he remembered they are flesh, a spirit that is passing and not returning. How many times did they rebel against him in the desert, and provoke him to wrath in the desert? And turned away and tempted God, and provoked the Holy One of Israel. They did not remember his hand, and the day he redeemed them from the hand of those afflicting them. How he wrought his signs in Egypt, and his wonders in the plains of Zoan. And how he returned their rivers and rainfalls into blood, so they could not drink. He sent them the dogfly, and it devoured them, and the frog, and it destroyed them. He gave their fruit to the mildew, and their labors to the locust. He killed their vineyard with hail, and their mulberry trees with frost. And he delivered their cattle to the hail, and their property to the fire. He sent forth the wrath of his anger to them, anger and wrath and affliction, sent forth through evil angels. He made a path for his wrath. He did not spare their souls from death, and their cattle he enclosed in death. And he struck every firstborn in Egypt, the first fruit of their labor in the tents of Ham. And he brought his people out like sheep, and he led them like a flock in the desert. And he guided them in hope, and they were not afraid. And the sea covered up their enemies. He brought them into the mountain of his holiness. This mountain his right hand acquired, and he cast out nations from before their face, and distributed them a measure of land as an inheritance. And he settled the tribes of Israel in their tents. They tested and rebelled against the Most High God. And he did not keep, and did not and did not keep his commandment, and did not keep his testimonies. They turned away and broke his covenant, just as their fathers did, and they changed into a crooked bow. They provoked him to anger with their high places, and moved him to jealousy with their carved images. God heard and despised them, and he utterly disdained Israel. And he rejected the tabernacle at Shiloh, his dwelling place where he settled among men. He gave their strength into captivity, and their beauty into the hands of the enemy. And he gave his people over to the sword, and despised his inheritance. Fire consumed their young men, and their virgins were not lamented. Their priests fell by the sword, and their widows were not lamented. Then the Lord awoke as from sleep, like a strong man drunk from wine, and he struck his enemies from behind. He gave them eternal reproach, and he rejected the dwelling of Joseph, and did not choose the tribe of Ephraim. He chose the tribe of Judah, this Mount Zion that he loves. And he built his sanctuary as the place of unicorns. He founded it forever on the earth. He chose David for his servant, and took him from the sheepfolds. And he took him from behind the sheep that gave birth, to shepherd Jacob his people, and Israel his inheritance. And he shepherded them in the integrity of his heart, and guided them with the skillfulness of his hands. Notes from the previous page. 76, Psalm 76, is Christ the end, teaching the importance of using the memory, especially in the day of affliction. For one is to remember God, the eternal years, the Lord's works. Verses 5 through 21 describe the numerous benefits of this remembrance. Verses 14b, 15a are sung as a refrain in Vespers at Pascha, Pentecost, and Nativity. 77, Psalm 77 concerns understandings. What needs to be understood is that Christ is speaking to his church. See also Matthew 13:34, 35, 1 Corinthians 10, 4 and 14, called children yet to be born, his sanctuary founded forever on the earth and his people, his inheritance. The content of his instruction is the entire psalm itself, an overview of the history of Israel.